Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I do have a couple of announcements to make, and then Heather is going to call roll to see to make sure we have a quorum. The announcements are that an executive session was held today immediately prior to this public meeting for the purpose of receiving litigation updates, legal and tax advice. So wanted everybody to know that we did have that executive session. I would also say that as a preliminary announcement, this meeting has been duly advertised as a public meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act and is therefore open to members of the public as observers. Actual participation in the meeting is limited to trustees and to those the trustees have invited in advance to take part. The final thing is the meeting is being recorded, as you know, and will be placed on the website. So with that, Heather, would you call roll, please?
Commissioner Boozle.
Present.
Aaron Dalton.
Present.
Secretary Davis Jones. I understand she's traveling. Commissioner DiGirolamo.
Present.
Representative Jim Gregory.
Present.
Steve Jasper.
I'm here.
Shay Madden. Shay's in the room. Commissioner Robert Postal.
Here.
Senator Greg Rothman.
Here.
Representative Mark Rozzi. Senator Tartaglione.
Present.
Dr. Jean Wright.
Okay, we do have a quorum, so that we can use this as voting sessions. First, I'd like to ask for the approval of the minutes of the November 30th, 2023 meeting, which were circulated in advance. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to those minutes that were circulated? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. As I would like to introduce Lisa Ritter. She's from the firm that we did approve at the last session, the accounting firm. And one of the initial things that came out of the interviews that we were having with the accounting firms was, would they have the capacity of looking at the tax laws and seeing if the trust owes any obligation to file federal and/or state income taxes. Lisa has reviewed that and does have a report. It is both good and bad news. And I will let her describe, and you can see what is good and what is bad.
So I want to mention briefly to you that we have reviewed the tax status of the trust and determined that none of the income is taxable, but returns should be filed. So we will go back and file for 2022, and then 2023 is due in April. The bad news is minor news. It's possible that there could be a late fee applied to that 2022 year return. I can attach some materials to that return in the hopes of avoiding that penalty and respond if one is applied to it to attempt to abate the penalty. All those things will be done. So the good news is that the trust, we've determined it's not taxable. I also prepared for you today an income statement on the cash basis for the time period of January 1st to December 31st, 2023. So I would like to review with you the income and expenses for the trust for that calendar year. The trust received investment income from Wilmington Trust of $2,030,378, and from M&T Bank interest income of $1,965. Then it received from PA Distributors $45,599,278, J&J $25,705,389, and Mollenkrodt $15,278,845. So the total income from the trust is just below 89 million, or 88,615,855. That's cash basis income to the trust. There were a series of expenses, administrative expenses. They include Wilmington Trust fees for the calendar year 2023 of $13,845, M&T Bank fees of $265. There was right to know law appeals, legal expense of $117,516. General legal advice was $147,049. There were payments to the Commonwealth from the trust of $10,021,311. Payments to the fee fund of $11,515,941. And then distributions to participants of the trust, so including everyone who we attempted to provide payments to. If for whatever reason we didn't have the proper bank account information and we're still working with that particular entity to make the payment, I included them. Those payments are $56,787,426. There's net income then to the trust for the year ended December 31st of $10,012,502. But as I said, that income will not be taxable. Happy to take questions if there are any.
One thing I would note, you probably did not hear in the administrative expenses, anything for CCAP, anything for Lisa's firm, anything for Penn State. Those were expenses, all of which were billed in January of this year, and that's why it's not included for last year. But even when you take those administrative expenses, if you will, all administrative expenses, including the legal fees that Lisa did review, they are more than covered by the over $2 million in interest that we received on the money that is being held by Wilmington Trust and M&T by a significant amount. And we intend going forward to try to make sure that all of the administrative expenses will be more than covered by interest income, and none of it will come out of the corpus of the monies that we have received from the settlements. I had a very good inquiry from Senator Rothman in his office yesterday, as far as if we knew whether or not those expenses, how they lined up against what other states were incurring. I do not have that information now, but there are regular meetings that the Attorney General is involved with other states. Kevin Boozle, I believe you said that you were involved with a couple of groups that discussed the trust. So we will attempt to ascertain that information, but based upon what I know some of the states have been spending and out of the corpus of the trust, I think you'll find that we rank very, very well in the administrative expenses. Much of the reason for that is through your good graces of being willing to serve for no compensation. And that obviously is very helpful in holding down administrative expenses. Senator Rothman, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a question. Legal fees, the total legal fees are 250,000. You mentioned there were two different categories. So was one just advice and the other was part, no?
Total was 250. I did ask them to, Buchanan to, keep, separate track of the Right to Know Act, because as you know, there were extensive briefs that were filed or material with the Right to Know Act, commission and many things that had to be answered, many, discussions with various of the counties, wondering what they were to do with their Right to Know Act, requests. So yes, the total legal expenses were 250,000.
Thank you.
Jim Gregory, you have a question.
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. What was the total number of right to know requests that we received?
Jason and Jordan? 8 to 10 Right to Know Act requests, or the trust itself, and then many counties also received them. And also legislative agencies, so there were a lot of requests.
Thank you.
By the way, all of which we said we are not subject, and remind you of what we reviewed at the last meeting. It was upheld. We are not required to file, to answer Right to Know Act requests. And as a trust, we are not a state agency. So we didn't have to reach into everybody's notes and records, okay?
Thank you.
But at the same time, I will also say many of the things that were requested did end up on our website, because we do have every intention of being as transparent as possible as far as monies received and monies that were distributed. And as we'll discuss a little bit later in the meeting, now that we have reports coming in from the people who received the money as to what they spent it on, we will also be planning on posting that on the website in the interest of transparency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, with regard to the tax returns that Lisa discussed, I was thinking the bad news was we had to file at all, Lisa, not that we didn't file for 2022. And the amount of the penalty, if we aren't able to avoid it, is $500. So it'll be a $500 penalty for not filing for 2022. I would like to have a resolution for this year that resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid Misuse and Addiction Abatement Trust hereby authorizes Mayor Duzel to prepare any necessary returns on behalf of the trust. Drafts will be shared with trustees in advance. Further, that Tom Van Kirk, as chair of the Board of Trustees, is authorized to sign such returns on behalf of the trust. We would intend to file on April the 15th of this year, so we'll be on a timely basis. If anybody in reviewing the drafts have any questions, want to have a further discussion, obviously we will entertain that, and it would be my proposal to request an extension of time if that is necessary. Otherwise, we will, the drafts will be finalized after you have a chance to review them and note any objection you may have. As I said, I don't think there will be any, given the fact that no taxes are due and owing. So could I have a motion to that effect?
Make a
So
motion.
moved. I'll second under
Seconded.
Kevin Boozle.
Second,
Senator Tartaglia.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next, we have a report from, the Attorney General's office regarding the status of the Wave Two settlements. We had a very full discussion, as you'll recall, at the November meeting, concerning Wave Two settlements, and I think we have some good news for everybody, concerning the status of the, additional monies coming in. So Neil, are you gonna give the report?
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Tyler. I was gonna do the brief update for
fine.
the board. Like Chair Van Kirk just mentioned, we do have an update for the Wave Two settlements. We are working with opposing counsel for the settling defendants to finalize the consent judgments. We should have those ready to go shortly, and we anticipate filing them in Commonwealth Court within the next few days. Once we file them in Commonwealth Court, we'll await the court's approval, and then once that's obtained, we will send copies of that approval to the national administrators, which is Brown Greer. Once Brown Greer has proof that the consent judgments were entered into our state court's record, they'll work with the trust in dispersing the funds from the national trust to the state trust. Overall, our current estimate is that it will be approximately $570 million over 15 years for Wave Two, though that number is subject to change depending on the district attorney litigation that our office is involved in, and then also ultimate participation figures for Wave Two. We're going to remain in communication with the trust on any updates to the timeline of these settlements, as well as the total amount that they'll bring in. If you have any questions, please let me know.
One question that I have is it still the status of the Walmart funds that they are going to pay it out in just one large initial payment, their entire amount, so that there will be a 90 million or so of the proposed 570 million that will be received from Walmart sometime this year, if approved by the Commonwealth Court?
Yes, that is correct. Walmart's settlement agreement is unique in that it kind of front loads all of it. They just do that one really large lump payment at the front end, and then there will be some kind of back end payments at the tail end of the settlement, but the majority of it is going to be in year one.
And as we discussed, or mentioned at the last meeting, there was concern voiced by several trustees, primarily of the counties that will be spending the money, that given such a large amount coming in from one settling party in 1 year, that they would like to have longer than the 18 months that they have to spend other monies without having to ask for an extension of time, et cetera. I believe it was the general sense of that meeting that would be a good idea. So I did ask the Attorney General to build into the proposed Commonwealth Court order that with regard to the Walmart settlement, that they would have, I believe, I suggested, I don't know if you adopted the suggestion, Tyler, but that counties would have 42 months in which to spend the money. It's further anticipated that we would pay the money out so that the counties can receive that money, even though they don't have to spend it for 42 months, so that they can be earning the interest on it and use that to offset some of their administrative expenses. So Tyler, was that built into the proposed Commonwealth Court order?
Yes, that is in the current draft. We did adopt your 42-month recommendation for the Walmart settlement funds.
Okay, with that, anybody have any questions of Tyler concerning the Wave 2 settlement? Okay, so if I'm right, Tyler, just so I keep my numbers straight, that will mean that over the course of the 10 to 20 years, when you throw in J&J, the distributors, all this money, knowing that there are still some settlements out there, but thus far, there will be about 1.6 billion that will be available to the trust to pay out to the counties, to the state, and to the litigating subdivisions.
Yes, that's correct.
I'd like to just congratulate the Attorney General's office. As I said at the initial meeting of this trust, Pennsylvania punched above its weight in receiving settlement monies. It's far above it's above what the population would call for. I guess the bad news to that is some of the reason for it is that we have a bigger problem than some of the states did. But the good news is that the Attorney General was able to reach settlement, and hopefully we'll see the benefits of that in the reports that we're going to see filed March 15th and in subsequent reports that the money is being put to good use. So thank you very much, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now, if we could have a report from Dennis, who will give a report, Dennis Scanlon, who will give a report. And on behalf of Penn State, Temple, and Pitt, that we did engage to prepare the questions or prepare the information that we wanted to see by March 15th, what the status of the returns are thus far. And then I will have a further discussion as to how we will end up reviewing the information that we received. So,
Thanks, Tom. So Dennis Scanlon from Penn State University is Chair Van Kirk mentioned, representing a group that for the trust has put together a reporting tool that all payees will use to respond with information on how settlement funds have been spent or are committed, and how that relates to appropriate uses as related to Exhibit E. Again, joint work between Penn State, Pitt, and Temple, and just a little bit about the process over, roughly the last 8 months. We've developed an electronic online reporting tool. It's out, it's live, but in the development of that process, a lot of steps. I won't go through the detail, but certainly understanding the needs of the trust, both in terms of fiduciary responsibility relative to the settlement, but also the desire to have public transparency, as Chair Van Kirk had mentioned. As we developed the tool, a number of principles to try to make it user-friendly, easy to use, least burdensome as possible, while still accomplishing those objectives. Through the fall, we went through some testing with users, some counties who volunteered their time. We did a number of webinars where we demonstrated the tool, gave instructions, produced, and a lot of this information is available as links on the trust website. You can see an instruction document. You can see a memo regarding the need to report, and a webinar, which is a recording of one of 3 webinars we did, where we invited any payees or their staff who would be subject to completing the report to see a demo of the tool, to ask questions as they prepare to report their spending. The tool itself is something that will be iterative. It will what's live now is the first reporting period, covering August 1st of 2022 to December 31st of 2023. There will be subsequent reporting periods, and basically in each of these reporting periods, there's information on the amounts of money dispersed from the trust to the payee. We confirm those amounts, and then in addition to providing some demographic information and attestation that the funds were used according to the settlement, each of the reportees are asked to then go through and report on what are called opioid remediation activities or efforts. And as many of those as money's been spent on could be reported, done individually. Each of those require information on the name of the program, the nature of the program, whether there was a contracted entity or who might be running the intervention or the program, the amount of money spent to date, any monies that are committed into the future, and then a checkbox that matches Exhibit E with its two schedules, Schedule A and Schedule B, where there are details around the specific uses, whether it's in prevention or whether it's in treatment or any of the other categories allowed per the settlement. The links went live and sent to each county. When I say link, each county or each payee that's subject to reporting gets a URL link that takes them to their report where they can enter their information electronically. And then when that can be saved if they want to work on it iteratively. And then ultimately that's submitted when the reporting entity or the payee is ready to submit. The deadline for those reports is March 15th. When we receive a submitted report, we are doing a quality check as our team to make sure there were no problems or errors in reporting. We are not, as our Penn State Pitt Temple group, we're not approving or rendering an opinion on the appropriate use of those funds. That's the trust job. We're just making sure the data reported is complete and appears to be accurate. At that point, we will let the payee know that that's the case, and then make the trust aware that those reports are available for its review. And I think Tom will be discussing the process that he's proposing the trust use for the review here shortly. To date, well, I guess maybe I would say one other thing. Obviously, these reports will be used for the fiduciary responsibility the trust has. And then also our group is making some suggestions for the trust as to how this information might be taken and presented publicly in a public-facing way, which, as Tom had indicated, is an objective, as I understand it, of the trustees. So brief summary to date. We've had 30 payees that have engaged with this tool in some fashion, about 5 that have submitted completed responses, or at least believed to be completed responses, 10 that have provided some level of detail but are still working on the completion of their responses, and then another 15 that are a little less further along but have certainly engaged with the tool. So still a number out there that have until March 15th to make those reports and submissions. And I guess I'll stop there because I think, Tom, you want to talk about what you will do with the data. And certainly one of the roles for our team is to facilitate providing the trust with this information for your deliberation.
It's the trust responsibility, in addition to making sure the money gets distributed, to then review how the money was spent, make sure that it was spent all in accordance with Exhibit E, which is the way everybody agreed in return for receiving money. They agreed to abide by Exhibit E, and to make sure that the money is being spent on Exhibit E purposes and for opioid abatement. In seeing the number of the returns that are going to have to be reviewed by the trust, in the case of one county I know who has already filed, there's as many as 25 separate reports that have to be 29 separate reports or agencies that received the money or how the money was spent by the county. And I anticipate that that's going to be in line with what we're going to find with most counties. Some may be considerably more. And obviously, when you have 67 counties, it's an awful lot to expect 13 members of the trust to sit in what will probably be all-day meetings in order to review in detail and to do the inquiries necessary to make sure that the money was spent properly. So it's my suggestion that we divide it up and we have 3 working groups of the trustees and 4 members of each, 4 trustees assigned to each of the, to one of the 3 working groups, and then divide the counties up so that there's approximately equal number of hopefully work to be divided among those different working groups. So what I have proposed, is that, we have a, as I said, the three working groups, then divide the counties up. The one thing we want to be concerned about is don't want to assign to any working group of which a county commissioner is a part, his or her particular county, because they are responsible for both spending the money. It would not be appropriate to have them also reviewing it. The same may also be true of different other members appointed by the county commissioners, and the extent to which they were involved in distributing money to a county that they may be responsible for. So, now, in the case of members of the General Assembly, the flip is almost true. I do think it's important that if somebody was elected from a given county or counties, that they be assigned and have those particular counties as part of their overall scrutiny, all subject obviously to very strict confidentiality, that they will not be discussing it with the individual county representatives before the entire trust has a chance to review it and make their recommendations. So I have tentatively set up what these groups are. I will tell you, they were discussed in the executive session. And additionally, I have tentatively divided up the counties. I do think some changes are going to have to be made going forward, and want to have the discretion to do it. But we were able to develop three groups of counties, which essentially have about 4.5 million population involved in each of it. Hopefully that will mean that we've divided it up in a way that there'll be about the same number of responses to review. I use the word working group advisedly. They will not be taking a vote. They will be making and be in a place to make a recommendation and have a full discussion with the trust. Every working group will be responsible for reporting to the whole group of 13 trustees exactly what their recommendation is. They will be making, and the trust will have an opportunity to ask any questions that they want, and will in fact be the final decision maker. And they will do that in open public meeting, and subject to vote by the entire trust. I will say I will be a member of each of the three groups to try to provide a little bit of continuity between the groups. Also, CCAP will be involved with each of the three working groups, as will council, and as will Penn State, and providing their advice, their response. These working groups will be responsible if there is doubtful use of going back to the county and making sure they fully understand what the money was spent on, so that they can make the full report to the full trust. I anticipate that when we do have the full trustee meeting, as I said, it will be public. I anticipate it'll be at least one full day, and perhaps even more, to review it, because there are a lot of responses that are being filed. With that, I would like to ask for a resolution that will give us the authority, give me the authority, I guess, to put into place what I just discussed. That resolution would be, and it was circulated before, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid Misuse and Addiction Abatement Trust hereby authorizes the chair of the board to establish three working groups of 4 trustees each to review essentially equal number of the annual reports submitted by recipients of trust funds pursuant to section 5D, Roman numeral 5D2 of the Order of the Commonwealth Court entered July 12, 2022. The chair, a representative of the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, and counsel for the trust will serve as advisory members of each working group. Each working group will review the reports of the expenditure of trust funds and make recommendations to the full Board of Trustees regarding compliance with Exhibit E appended to the Order of the Commonwealth Court. The working groups will not have any authority to take any official action, but will submit their recommendations to be reviewed and acted upon by the full Board of Trustees at a public meeting. Meetings of the working groups will not be open to the public, and we believe that that is proper under the Sunshine Act. We will post shortly after this meeting, and have set up the working groups, eliminated any concerns as to whether any individual county commissioner is reviewing their own county, and we will then post both the working groups, the members of each working group, and the counties that they will be reviewing, and that will be on the trust website. So could I have a motion to that effect that I just read? Okay,
Motion, this is postal.
thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I would like to ask everybody in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry,
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I could not unmute fast enough to ask my question, if I
Oh,
may.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. Just some technical difficulty on my end. This is Commissioner Kevin Boozle, Butler County. Just wanting to make sure that CCAP was aware that they would be a part of that working group moving forward, and what would their role be? Because I don't know that we discussed that, so I apologize if we have.
Yeah, the role will be, they are going to be involved. They do know that they are going to be involved. And one of their roles is going to be, if reports are deemed to be incomplete, or if we need further information, they will be a liaison between the working group and getting in touch with the proper people from the county to make sure that the working group has the full information available as to what the money was spent on, particularly if there's any questions about whether or not it's in compliance with Exhibit E. So it's going to be as a liaison factor and trying to provide some continuity as to what each of the working groups are doing.
Thank you for that explanation.
Okay. Does anybody want to change their vote based upon that explanation? Okay, resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. As part of what we're seeing with some of the initial reports that have come in, as stated by Dennis, I'm somewhat concerned that not all of the money is being spent. Now, it's not surprising because a significant amount of the money that is being reported upon was not received in 2022 by the counties until late December, and they had 18 months to spend it, meaning that they have until June 30th to spend it. And obviously, we're requiring this report on March 15th. I'd had a number of discussions with Penn State earlier that they had said they thought we would get fuller information and be able to be more transparent sooner if we have another reporting period built into the system. And they had suggested September 15th. which obviously will enable us to each year, get a full review of monies that might have been distributed in December of 18 months earlier. So now seeing that there is a significant amount of money that will not be reported nor required to be reported by March 15th, I believe that they were right all along and that we should have the additional reporting period. I'm also heartened by the fact that at least thus far, the counties seem to have had no difficulty in answering and providing responses, so that it is eliminating some of the administrative burden. So I would like to make a motion that we include, for this year at least, and probably all going forward, that we have a second reporting period of September 15th, and that will cover everything that was received, all monies that was received prior to June 30th of in this case, 2024. So I would like to have a motion first, and then we can have a discussion on that motion. So can I have a motion to that effect?
I have a motion. I'll do a motion.
I'll second. Gene?
Thank you. Okay, discussion of the motion.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Thanks, Rob. I like the motion. I'm all good with the September 15th reporting date, especially as we come out of the gate. I would like to review again in the future to see if that's necessary, see how that goes. If we garner any information that's worthy of that extra burden or not. I would like to just have the opportunity to review moving forward.
And I would make that part of the motion. Yes, I accept that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's Rob Postal. I'm just asking, can we do that? Or are we making it mandatory? I don't know if it is somehow a problem with the trust agreement. We made February 15th as opportunity to submit a draft. I don't think we made that mandatory. And I assume some counties are taking advantage of that. So is the intent on September 15th being optional, or can we in fact make it mandatory given what the trust agreement states?
The intent is to make it mandatory. I believe that I'll review the trust order since there is going to be a amended trust order that is going to be submitted to the Commonwealth Court. If the order as currently is set forth needs to be amended, I will talk to the Attorney General's office about that.
Yeah, I
I
just
personally don't think it is. I think we can make it mandatory.
Then I would second Commissioner Boozle's intent that we don't want to make it burdensome to others that have perhaps smooth going programs. I know that it's an advantage to us and convenient to have this September 15th date. I'm putting my county hat on though and saying just hope it gets to be burdensome, so it should be reviewed. But I would appreciate you looking at that to see if we could in fact make it mandatory or optional. Thank you.
Will do. The difficulty with in the amended order putting in language is it makes it more difficult, I believe, to make it just this year, giving the flexibility to not do it in future years. If it's written into a court order, it will be probably more long-term than you might want to see it. So let me look at what the language we can put in, Rob, and I understand, and we don't want it to be a burden to the counties. At the same time, it is our intent to get this money out and being used and working to fight this major problem that we have. And we might have to put the emphasis on making sure that the money is getting spent. And to make sure the public is aware of how it's being spent. Okay. With that, if there's no further questions, could I have a vote on the motion? All in favor,
Aye.
please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. The next one is, the next item on the agenda is, we have gotten inquiries from outside third parties, not recipients of money, not members of the general Pennsylvania public, and concerning, asking questions as to how the money is being distributed, et cetera. We do try to answer questions from people who have legitimate inquiries and give as much information as we possibly can. However, in recent months, there's been several instances where the information that is being requested comes from outside of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and is really organizations that are either associated with different groups or just wanting to know how the money is being, how Pennsylvania is spending its money. Not what they're spending it on, but how we decided to distribute money. Why are the counties getting 70%? Are the counties getting 70%? Are the counties getting more? Is the state getting money? What is the state's reporting requirements, et cetera? These are time consuming to answer and to really try to even figure out many times what the question is. So given the fact that we have discussed numerous times the fact that we want to be transparent, and that means trying to answer questions and put them on our website, but recognizing that now we're getting inquiries from various organizations that are just doing their own investigations and isn't serving any legitimate purpose and isn't necessarily enlightening any members of the Pennsylvania public as to what is being done with the money. I'd like to have the discretion to not provide information to those different organizations, and it would be at our discretion, and recognizing that it has nothing to do with the many requests we've gotten and have already posted on the website. And that is the reason for the motion that I had suggested, that I believe was in the package that you received. The actual motion is resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid Misuse and Addiction Abatement Trust hereby authorizes its administrator, the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, to respond to requests for information submitted by outside parties, those who do not receive trust funds pursuant to or otherwise have a role under the trust order, by referring them to the trust website and public meetings of the Board of Trustees. No further comments should be provided beyond such information. So we would be providing them with information. If it's a question relating to how is the money being spent, what is it being spent on, when we have posted that, obviously they will have access to it. And this really is to just avoid having your all authority to have your administrator, CCAP, and myself, to whom many of these questions get directed, just refer the people directly to the website instead of answering the question directly. So I would like to have a motion to that effect if you're willing to do it.
I make a motion.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second discussion on the motion.
Yeah, this is Aaron. I was just wondering what's the volume here? Do you have a sense in the past couple of months what you're getting and how much of a burden it really is?
It hasn't been that much the last couple of months, but it's increasing as more organizations nationwide are trying to become the go-to source as to how each state is distributing its money, to whom. Is it going directly to the counties? Because there's a vast array of the manner in which monies are being distributed. Some states, most of it is being spent at the state level as opposed to at the county level. Pennsylvania is in a minority that the bulk of the money is being spent at the county level, and various outside organizations, and Dennis, I apologize if you've been guilty of this with other states, and you probably have, but it's been increasing as more and more as the money is now getting spent, Aaron. So I just want to preclude it becoming a burden, okay? But I don't want to do it without the trustees' permission.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, hearing no nays, the motion passes. Finally, I just wanted to have a discussion of the transparency of the opioid spending. We do intend, pending any objection I might hear from you, when the trust has reviewed this in a voting meeting, we will post how the money was spent on the website so that members of the public can see exactly how it was spent. I would anticipate that what that might do is cause people to want to ask questions, not of the trust, but of the county commissioners, for example, of DDAP, who has been charged by the state with spending the state's allocation of the money, by any of the litigating subdivisions as to why did you spend it on this? Why didn't you spend it on this? And it may raise those questions, but I do think the public has a certain right to know. I also think the public will be very pleased with the way most of the counties are spending the money. If we hear objections, it's probably going to be for people who thought that we ought to distribute it, and we have had some inquiries to this effect, to individuals as opposed who might have been harmed, as opposed to distributing it for programs to avoid problems in the future. But I think the transparency part of it is most important for us. And despite the fact it is settlement money and not taxpayer money, I still think our best practice will be to post it when we get the information in and when we've had a chance to vote on it. So does anybody have any objection to our proposal to go forward with it from a transparency standpoint, to post it on the website? Okay.
No,
I don't
no
think,
problem.
okay, I don't
No
think we
problem
have
here.
any
Nope.
need to vote on that, and we've had a general discussion of that before, so I didn't anticipate there would be a whole lot more. Okay, anybody have any new business to come before the group? With that, the meeting will be adjourned, and I want to thank everybody for their participation in the meeting, and we look forward to getting busy with these working groups. I will try to make sure it's posted within the next week, exactly what the makeup of the counties will be and what the makeup of the working groups will be. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.